for the last year or so or more for our in-house builds, but we wanted to start to move this on out into our everyday builds for the beans that we're starting to do so many bottom ends. So what we're going to show you here is how we align, bore, and dial pin the M8 cam plate. So we get a lot of customers who are calling us and saying, hey, you know, I'm bolting on my cam cover or my cam plate and my oil pump, and then I notice I get a bind in the thing, and then we have to loosen everything and kind of move everything around. So what we have come up with, and I did recognize that same issue. So me and Brian kind of brainstormed on this, and what we ended up doing was dial pinning this. If you remember, the M8s only have one dial pin right here at the top. The twin cams in the past have always had one at the top and the bottom, which was more of an alignment, kept everything in a line. So what we have done here is we have found that you can see when you just put the screws in it, you can see the amount of movement in this cam plate, some up and down and back and forth. You can see that. So what we do, now if you were to pull this all down and everything, it might go right where it's supposed to go, but if you've got a crank that's running out and it's up or down, then it would be off a little bit, and then you wouldn't know, especially if it's in the bike. So what we do here is we come in, and let me just show you real quick here. We start with a common denominator. When you're dial pinning this stuff, you have to start with one common denominator. And what we use is our cam bushing. And I'll explain that to you. So what we do is Brian sets it up. He sets it all up, and when he's aligned boring, he sits it on a fixture, and he'll indicate in the cam bearing, and he'll put the cam plate on. And then what he has a fixture that he comes in here, and he puts up, you see that little hole right there? That's this dial pin right there. Okay, and then what we do is we just tap that in there. Okay, and it hits the bottom. And then you'll notice when you put this cam plate on, now let me just show you this. This is with no cam plate or anything. And as you can see, that's driving the bottom end is just as free as can be. And then when you put this all on here, and it goes in, and you can see it just really gets rid of a lot of that, almost all of that, virtually all of it. So we know that we are aligned because how we do that is, this is our common denominator, and then we know that our plate is indicated properly. Then after we do that, we can come back in and fixture it on the case or on our fixturing, and then we can check the pinion bushing as far as how far off it is. Now we'll see these things on some occasions. We can put them on the case and move it one way or the other, and you'll see this off, a thousandths to 8/10 to a thousandths. This here, and if you line this in and you tap it around and get this perfect, then we're off here. So what we've done is we have got that common denominator, which is this right here, okay? So after it's all said and done, we put it in. Now this particular one here, after we dial pinned it, we come back, we put it on the fixture, and we check this, and we were 2/10 out here. But just for your information, we could move that enough to make that out about 1/1000 to 8/10, okay? So then we come back in here. Let me tighten this properly. Now that's just snug, okay? And then what we can do is, now this is all snugged here. We know that this is aligned with off of the cam bearing, so we know that our cam alignment is properly. And then as you can see right there, that's what you're looking for. That tells you with that all pulled down and dial pinned and everything like that, that crankshaft is aligned from your Timken bearing through your pinion bearing to the end of your cam plate support bearing. And then what that will do now, when you go in to go put your oil pump on, you should be able to put your oil pump on. And then if you do experience a little bit of a binding or something, then you can rotate. I always suggest rotating my bottom end while I'm snugging up my oil pump. And of course, keep in mind, the better your crank is, the better all this is. Keep in mind, we are starting with a new Dark Horse crank that only had 7/10 run out at the end of the shaft. So that does come into play. If you've got something that's got 5 or 6 thousandths run out in it, you are going to have a little bit of a tight spot. So, but all in all, still, everything would be aligned properly, okay? So just keep that in mind. This is normally only done on our bottom end services when we are, putting in the new cranks and everything like that, but it's a nice place to start. So thank you very much.